All right, what's going on YouTube? It's the Wood Veteran. This is my son Jojo. Say hello.
Hi.
And today we're going to be talking about my go-to must-have tools for the shop. Now these are just ease of use, convenience, things that make your life a little better, a little safer, and it won't break the bank at the same time. So let's get right into it. Where should we start?
Right here.
Well, okay. Which one? The ruler. All right. So this is an architect's ruler, not to be confused with an engineer's ruler. This lets you scale things up and down. And that's the benefit of it, is it allows you to draw and maintain your pictures at scale. So, for instance, these are all made using the same measurement. 1:1 square, 1/2 to 1, 3/8 to 1, 1.5 to 1, 3 to 1. So if you were using 1 inch as your measurement and then you use the different scales, you can get different sizes. Now the reason this matters is when you're drawing a piece of furniture, you want to make sure that your pieces are proportioned aesthetically when you are finalizing your design. This is less important if you use a computer because you can just tweak the numbers there and you'll get to see the visual end result. But if you're a pen and paper type person, being able to draw it to scale so that you know it looks right the way you're drawing it is really important.
Yeah!
Absolutely. So what's next? All right, so this is the Fast Cap Fat Boy, and it is a pencil with a large piece of lead. The benefit of this one is that it's impossible to break. So you may, I use it only for one thing, and that's for marking materials. So you may have done this before where you have a mechanical pencil and you're trying to do your lines for your jointer or your planer, and then you snap off your lead, or you're using an actual pencil and you do the same thing and then you snap off your lead. I'm exaggerating, I know, but at times the wood will catch and these will break. You cannot break this. This will mark and never break. It's pretty much serves only one purpose for me in the shop, and that is to do sanding with. But I know I don't have to fight these things every time I go to draw a new layer. When you buy one, it comes with a variety of colors: white, red, and lead. I don't know what the color for lead is, so I'm just going to call it lead. They're interchangeable. No, it does not come with a bolt on the top. It comes with an eraser. I lost mine a long time ago, and this serves the purpose. There are a set of clamping teeth that are used to hold the piece where you want it. Useful tool. All right, this tool is a center finding guide, and it's by Rockler. This is more of like, I don't want to say a luxury item, but it's like it only serves one purpose for me, and that is to find the center of something. So you could go the traditional route and be like, oh, it's 5/8, so I need to pull it in half, so I need to come up here and measure, and yeah, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to take my little stick and put it on there and then run down the center. The only downside to this is it has a clearance of 2.5 inches, so you won't be able to do anything wider than 2.5 inches. You're not going to be finding the center of this. It also has these various depths. These are edge guides so that you could run the piece on the edge to get a certain measurement. I've never used it for that reason, and I have no intention of ever using it for that purpose, because this does one thing, and that is to find the center. It's got a little magnet in it, so I can attach it to the side of my toolbox, and that's where it stays. All right, the sanding block. Sanding is always a joy. Oh, look at that, perfect. Sanding's always a joy. I love sanding. And if you've ever had to, which there's always a time when it happens, sand by hand with paper, it can work. It can be great. But when you start sanding edges and corners and other things, and you're using stuff with holes in it, you may find that you end up stabbing yourself on a regular basis and that you don't like sanding anymore. So we're going to remove our fingers from the equation by using a little sanding block. This is a hook and pile loop tape. It's Velcro. Fits 5-inch discs, and it removes your fingers, those little tender things, from the sanding process. It gives you a nice thing to grip. They're cheap, they're usable. It's not complicated. You could use a block of wood, but I find that this works a little better because then you don't have to death grip the sandpaper around the wood because it's being held by the Velcro. There's just a convenience to that. That's what I'm saying. These are just about convenience. So convenient. All right, next tool. All right, this little rubber block is for cleaning your sanding equipment. Sanding material, whether it's a spindle sander or a belt sander or a palm sander, sandpaper gets clogged up and you need to clean it. And if you don't, you end up burning your wood. So, you know, you're at the sander and you're working, and for some unusual reason, you lose focus on sanding. Generally, you are always paying attention to what you're doing, but for some reason you're daydreaming because sanding is so fun. And you end up burning your wood and charring your material, your paper. This piece of rubber has one purpose, and that is to clean your sandpaper. Now, it is clean. It will help prolong the life of all of your sandpaper. If you are still burning though, you may find that this is no longer usable, but this will help prolong the life of any sandpaper that you use. If you don't want to buy one of these, an old tennis shoe would also work pretty appropriately. But yes. This is the Match Fit Dovetail hardware kit, and this kind of reduces the need for T-track when you are creating jigs. So you want something that's able to slide. Generally, this is what you're using. You go out and you buy some T-track and you buy the nuts and bolts for it. And this stuff's great. It has its place. But when you are working with other things, there are some ways in which, I'm not going to say it falls short. You don't necessarily need it. So this kit comes with a handful of dovetail pieces with a screw, and it's attached at one end, and then you'll have a cap that goes on it. And all you need is a dovetail router, and you can make all sorts of different hold downs. I made this table saw lathe a few days ago for the Thor hammers stuff I was doing, because I don't have a lathe, I can't turn, so I got to make something work, and I needed a way to get this piece to slide around as I need it. And as you can see, I have a dovetail here at the end, and this just slides right in, and then when you put on your top and screw it down, it pulls up against the dovetail, locking it in place. It's a very versatile small piece of hardware. I mean, really, it's one of those things that your imagination, sky's the limit type ordeal. But I find it pretty useful. I'm looking forward to creating more jigs. It's got a lot of really neat ideas designed for hold downs. You can see, you know, they have different table saw variations, and just prevents you from needing to buy T-track as well as T-track hardware. This is a one and done, although you have to have the router. So this is the Utilitas 6-inch hook ruler. It's one of the first tools I ever purchased. It's from Lee Valley. It's like 11 bucks. One of the best things, one of my favorite tools, one of the tools I lose the most. When measuring, you have options. Different sizes, makes, so on and so forth. But one thing that you'll run into issues with when measuring is getting an accurate read when you are trying to pull a measurement from the edge. Now you could, reference a flat side and stick it down and then come over and take a look, and that will do that. And if you're not trying to be considerably accurate, you can always just line it up with your finger on the edge and pull to it. But I don't like doing that because I don't like making mistakes. So this has a hook on it. It allows you to get the right reading every time. It is labeled 1 to 6 this way and reverse in the other direction. So if you want to pull measurements quickly, you can do it without ever having to worry about lining things up correctly. Like I said, this is my go-to measuring tool. I always have it. I also always lose it. So I would highly recommend getting one like these. Amazon has some that are made a little different. I'm simply giving you the recommendations of the one I use. So take that with a grain of salt. The ones on Amazon that I did find, they were very cluttered. They were very cluttered. They'd have maybe measurements in the 30 seconds, a lot of lines. It can be really hard to read. This one just is spaced out and etched appropriately so that reading is really easy. All right, for the next two, we're gonna head over to the table saw. So come with me. All right, so if you have a table saw, you have one of these things. This is how you adjust the angle of your blade. Now, most of them are fairly accurate. However, I don't ever trust mine. Even if I set it up, I don't ever use it. I use this thing. It's magnetic. It's called Wixie, and it is a digital angle gauge, and it lets you set your blade to whatever angle you want. So all you have to do is turn it on and set it on your table. All right, you zero it out to your table. I'm going to raise the blade up so that I have some surface to work with. And then it is now zeroed to the table, and it's magnetic, which means I can put it on my table saw blade.
Yeah.
It's just incredibly handy to have. Because it's magnetic, it's always at my table. And like I said, I was referenced on 0 and I was off by half a degree. So it's one thing that I always keep around. All right, this last tool is the Micro Jig Mini Split. And out of all the tools on this list, this is the one that I would recommend absolutely having. It'll save your fingers and a lot of other things. So table saw, blade, riving knife. Most table saws come with a riving knife, but if you buy a used table saw, yours may not have it. On top of that, finding a replacement one can be a problem. So a riving knife has one job. That's to prevent kickback. So when you are cutting a piece of wood, and if you don't have a riving knife, there is an opportunity for the back of the board to twist into the blade and get thrown at you. And that's gonna hurt and scare the shit out of you. In that order, I think, simultaneously. So a riving knife prevents the board from catching on the back of the blade, and that is just an insane safety necessity. Like there are times where you have to remove a riving knife to do specific cuts, but at almost all times this little thing is in here. I bought this table saw used. It didn't have a riving knife. The parts were discontinued. I couldn't find one. This was an easy solution to a safety problem that I didn't want to have. So they're really easy to use. They're really easy to set up. It just comes with this little template. It gives you a drill bit, 2 of these little plastic pieces. You'll cut a board, you'll reset it. You do have to use a 0 clearance throat plate that you can drill into. But once you have it set up, it's easy to take in and out, and it works like a champ. Like I said, this thing has made my life considerably more comfortable working the table saw. Trying to do cuts without it can be a little unnerving sometimes, get that pucker factor up, but it's nice knowing that that works. That'll wrap this up. These were a handful of tools that I always reach for, the ones that I'm always using, the ones that provide me the best bang for my buck, as well as make my job just a little bit easier. So let me know what your favorite tools are, which one of these that you liked, which one that you wish you had. You know, tell me what it is you want, what you really, really want. Links for everything will be in the description box below. Thanks for joining me. I'm making one of these. I'm actually making several. So, I'm brain dead at this point.